Of gorgeous loose diamonds, every shape, every size, and price range diamonds, including Kwiat and Hearts on Fire. It's the Diamond Expo.
Plus, thousands of diamond settings from the world's top designers, including Gabriel & Company, JB Star, and Tacori.
Everything diamond. Diamond earrings, rings, bracelets, and necklaces at the best prices of the year. It's the Diamond Expo.
Plus, with every purchase of $5,000 or more, you'll receive a half-carat pair of natural diamond studs, a $950 value as our gift.
The Diamond Expo at Williams Jewelers. Save hundreds, even thousands. It's our biggest diamond event of the year.
And the diamond earrings are on us.
Williams Jewelers, we can make diamonds a part of your life.
Where Colorado shines.
If you've been living on credit cards just to cover groceries, gas, and bills, you know those interest rates are brutal. Why keep paying 20% or more to the banks when you could call my friends at American Financing? They have mortgage rates in the 5s, and they are showing people every day how to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. Right now, American Financing is helping homeowners save an average of $800 a month by using their equity to wipe out high-interest debt with no upfront fees, no obligation, and just a 10-minute call to a salary-based mortgage consultant. And here's the kicker. If you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, putting even more cash in your hands right away. Don't wait. Call American Financing now at 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000, or visit them online at americanfinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. APR for rates in the 5s start at 6.327% for well-qualified buyers. Call 303-695-7000 for details about credit costs and terms.
I just saw 2 houses for sale. Same neighborhood, almost identical, but one had an Orchard sign and it sold for way more. So I asked my friends at Orchard, why? The first house used a traditional agent. After weeks of price drops and frustration, they settled for less than they'd hoped for. The second homeowner chose Orchard and got more. Their local Orchard agent didn't just list a home, they marketed it. They knew exactly which upgrades would attract serious buyers and brought in a pro to handle everything. And even more, with Orchard's Move First, Sell Later program, the homeowner moved into their new home before their old one even hit the market. They skipped all the hassles and showings. Never settle for less. Get more with Orchard, the smarter, faster, hassle-free way to buy your new home, even before your old home sells. Start with Orchard's free home valuation at Orchard.com. That's Orchard.com. Orchard.com.
This is Rob Wilhite of the Wilhite Law Firm. If you've been seriously injured in a truck or car wreck, you want Wilhite. Get your free case review now. We've been voted best personal injury law firm for the last 3 years in a row. Visit WilhiteWins.com and win big with Wilhite.
This is Hall of Famer Terrell Davis here to tell you about my friends at Colorado Credit Union. Great plays start with a solid game plan, and the same goes for home ownership. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or tapping into your home's equity, Colorado Credit Union has the mortgage and home equity options to fit your needs. Ready to make your next big move? Visit ccu.org to learn how Colorado Credit Union can help. Colorado Credit Union. Love where you live, love where you bank. Membership eligibility required, federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Introducing Slate, the cure for overpriced, overcomplicated cars. It's a truck, it's an SUV, it's whatever you need it to be. Reserve yours at slate.auto.
KKFN and KKFN HD1 Longmont, Denver. You're listening to Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Welcome to Denver Sports Tonight, taking a look at the biggest stories in Denver sports. From your online home for the best opinions and information on the Broncos, Nuggets, Avalanche, Rockies, and more. DenverSports.com.
And it is Denver Sports Tonight on this Tuesday night in the Mile High City. He's Anilo Pirro. I'm Will Peterson. We will roll with you for the next hour as the Denver Broncos are now 1-1 after an inexplicable and heartbreaking loss to the Indianapolis Colts. So much to dissect. We're going to dive into some thoughts from what went wrong, particularly late in the fourth quarter, and also start to look ahead to a very scary Chargers team that is looking to take a early stranglehold on the AFC West. Anilo, we've had a couple nights to sleep on it. How are you feeling 48 hours removed from a game that quite frankly, the Broncos just can't lose, and they found a way to give it up?
Yeah, what's up, Will? Happy to be here with you tonight on DST on the ever-powerful 104.3 The Fan. And not quite as nauseating as it was in the moment, not quite as upsetting as it was on Monday morning. I think I've kind of started to turn that page and look forward to the Chargers. Maybe that has to do with the fact that they looked good last night against the Raiders as well. But it's one game. It's the second game of the year. It's early in the year. Obviously a terrible, just awful way to lose a football game. It is what it is. But plenty to unpack tonight, and hopefully the Broncos are better for it.
Yeah, hopefully they're better. Hopefully there are lessons learned. You're right. It is a loss in the middle of September. Much better than something like that happening to you in a playoff game. I'll give you that. But I have a bad feeling that this loss could haunt the Broncos all season long. I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around what happened. The interception from Bo Nix late when a field goal would have done the Broncos a world of good. Then the next possession, they actually do get a kickoff, but Will Lutz doinks it off the upright. Certainly didn't help having two penalties. J.K. Dobbins spiking the football. I didn't think it was that aggressive of a spike, but still, Sean even said post-game, our guys know they can't spike it, and you look at the replay, he did spike it a little bit. You had a 15-yarder on that, but still, Will Lutz has to make a 42, 43-yard field goal, whatever it was. And then, of course, the final play of the game. I mean, Denver's special teams unit was way too aggressive trying to block a 60-yard field goal. By now, you know, Dondrea Tillman was called for leverage. The Colts got a second chance from 45 yards out, and the Broncos are now 1-1. If any of those 3, 4, 5 things I just outlined go a different way, we're sitting here talking about a 2-0 team. We're probably not spending that much time on the Colts game because we're previewing Broncos and Chargers for the early AFC West lead. And instead now they're 1-1. They're in danger of falling into a 1-2 hole if they lose to LA. And I think I'm a little sicker about it than you, even 2 days removed. I keep replaying those final 6 minutes in my head, and I can't believe that everything that could go wrong did go wrong for them to somehow lose that game 29-28.
No, 100%. I mean, it was ugly. It's about as ugly of a loss as you could have, right? And I know there's been some ugly ones in the Broncos franchise history, but self-inflicted wounds ultimately cost the Denver Broncos in this game. And I'm curious to pick your brain because I asked Dover and Cecil yesterday for a little social media video. Check it out, DenverSports 1043 on Instagram and all the good platforms. In your opinion, Will, what was the most gut-wrenching aspect of that loss? Was it the Bo Nix interception? Was it the Dobbins penalty? Was it the leverage call at the end? What to you is the thing that's holding you up the most on this game?
Yeah, you know, I'm always going to go to the very, very end because it's pretty darn simple. If you don't commit leverage, you win the football game. Not only was the kick far wide right, but it was also short. So if you go watch the replay, the ball landed in the middle of the end zone. It was just a poor kick by a guy whose career high was something like 54 yards, not even in the NFL, when he was back at Notre Dame. So that to me is the number one gut-wrenching, and I know Sean had his conference call on Monday morning. He took responsibility, right? He said, point all the arrows at me. I can't call field goal block there, but Shane Steichen, Nathaniel Hackett that thing, Anilo. He really did. His play calling was so lame down the stretch. We all remember the infamous Brandon McManus 64-yarder in Seattle in Hackett's first game when he just wasn't aggressive enough and McManus missed. And Steichen had like 2 minutes and a handful of timeouts. He could have gotten to the 20. He could have made that a 37-yarder. Instead, he's making it a 60. I had my tweet ready to go. We're not near the holidays, but thank you to Shane Steichen for the gift wrap present. Broncos are 2-0. He had no business making his kicker attempt a 60-yarder. And therefore, the Broncos had no business trying to block said 60-yarder, or at least not block it as aggressively as they did. That was one of those where I would have almost told the defensive line, let him kick it.
Yeah.
If he makes it, he makes it. It's not Brandon Aubrey on the other side of this. It's not Matt Prater on the other side of this. It's not, Justin Tucker before everything happened with him on the other side of this. It's a very unproven kicker attempting this kick. If he makes it, we'll tip our cap. But his head coach just really screwed up, and the Broncos did the Colts a massive favor.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, it's an absolutely absurd way to lose a football game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But what I come back to, I mean, obviously just a boneheaded way to end the game as well. But when you put the game in the hands of the referees, bad things are going to happen more often than not. And I agree with you, a terrible way to end the game. But to me, what I keep coming back to is that Will Lutz missed field goal. Do your job. And that changes the entire dynamic of this football game, because then the Broncos are up 5 at that point. You put the weight of the world on Daniel Jones' shoulders to have to go drive down the field and put up a touchdown. To me, yes, the field goal was nasty, and I think Broncos country, there was some back and forth. Should they call it? Should they have not called it? Probably don't call that in a playoff game. But if Will Lutz makes his field goal, the Broncos win that game.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most hung up on.
No, and I don't blame you at all. I'm not real thrilled with Will Lutz, a guy who has a history of missing big kicks. 2 years ago in Buffalo, he only got a second chance at a game winner because the Bills had 12 guys on the field. He missed a clutch kick. Last year in Kansas City, yes, I blame Alex Forsythe more than I blame Will Lutz, but still, it's like a 35-yarder. Pop it up, get under it. Don't give him a chance to block it, and the Chiefs still did. And then this kick against Indy, Will Lutz is really good in the second quarter at home in kind of a ho-hum situation. He has not been good in a Broncos uniform in clutch situations. In fact, he missed a field goal in the Bills game in the playoffs last year as well. So it's twice in Buffalo he's missed 2 big kicks. Now he got bailed out the first time again with the penalty, 12 men on the field. But to me, the clutch gene is something that's debated in sports all the time. Does it exist? Does it not? I'm a believer it does, because I think the best players rise in the best moments. Like, I think Nikola Jokic is clutch as hell.
Oh, yeah.
The guy always finds a way to score or set up a teammate to score in the final seconds of tight games. I think Will Lutz, quite frankly, numbers say he's a great kicker. He is a pretty good kicker. Clutch gene, he doesn't have it.
Well, remember, this is a Sean Payton guy. Sean went out of his way to make sure that Will Lutz would be the Denver Broncos kicker moving forward. And, it's an interesting dynamic, and I think, I'm not saying cut Will Lutz or anything like that, but the field goal, the kicking position has become so pivotal in the NFL. You bring up Brandon Aubrey. I mean, he's virtually, maybe not single-handedly, it was back and forth game. Russ was cooking, bad pass. But Aubrey, with the weight of the world on his shoulders, nails that. What was it, 65-yard field goal? And then again there in the overtime period as time expires to win the game. And especially with the new kickoff rule, with being able to get the ball at the 35-yard line, you're talking about having to move the ball 20, 25 yards to give yourself a really good chance at a field goal, which in late-game scenarios is absolutely critical. And now you got to sit back if you're a fan of the Broncos or a member of Broncos country and maybe scratch your head a little bit and wonder, to your point, does this guy have the clutch gene? We know Bo Nix, we're hoping he settles into a nice groove, nice in the first half, but, Bo does his job late in the game, sets you up with a 50-yard or 55-yard field goal attempt. Do you have the confidence in Will Lutz? These are the questions that now creep in the minds of Broncos fans.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right that a kicker can be a massive weapon, and we saw that for the Cowboys on Sunday. They really had no business winning that football game once Russell Wilson hit Malik Neighbors with like 25 seconds left or whatever it was. But because Aubrey can come out and make a 64-yard, 65-yarder with his eyes closed, by the way, it would have been good from like 75.
Crazy.
It hit the netting. It was ridiculous. The Cowboys are 1-1 instead of 0-2, and because Will Lutz can't make a 43-yarder, which quite frankly is a chip shot in today's NFL, the Broncos are 1-1. So yeah, that brings us to a third name though. Darren Rizzi, what are you doing, dude? Like, your first 2 games as Broncos special teams coordinator have been beyond underwhelming. And I know Sean made a change last year, and Mike Westhoff had to resign for health reasons. And then I'm slipping on the name of the guy they didn't bring back, the other special teams coordinator. Dante, if you remember, or can look it up for me. But he pivoted. He made a change. He didn't change his D coordinator. He didn't change his O coordinator, but he changed his special teams coordinator. And I know everyone was all excited because Rizzi was an interim head coach, and he was quirky and fun down in New Orleans and did some wild things and all this and that.
Weird superstitions.
But Darren Rizzi, through 2 games, I've not been impressed at all. I mean, you could make a strong case that his coaching is the reason the Broncos lost. Will Lutz has to make 43-yarders, and his defensive line has to be smarter defending 60-yarders. Darren Rizzi, if it's possible for a seat to be hot already, his seat's hot already in my eyes in Denver.
Yeah, but he's in the club with Sean Payton. I don't think Darren Rizzi's going anywhere. Not saying that he should, right? It's obviously a terrible mishap, but it comes down to the players being able to execute at the end of the day as well. Like, Darren Rizzi puts his players in position for success. Like, Will Lutz has to make the field goal. D'Andrea Tillman doesn't need to make a boneheaded penalty. I hear you. I agree. It's just one of those things where we shouldn't have to talk about a special teams coordinator. Like, when you don't hear anything about the special teams coordinator, that means things are going well. The fact that we're having this conversation in 2 consecutive weeks after 2 games to open up the season, little red flag, Will.
Yeah, big red flag, actually, in my eyes. And Dante reminds me it was Ben Kotwika who got...
What?
Kotwika.
That's a fun last name.
Who got run out of town for his poor special teams coordinating last year. And it doesn't feel like the Broncos had much of an upgrade, to be honest. And I'm with you. I'm not saying fire Darren Rizzi. I'm not saying cut Will Lutz. I'm not saying any of that. It's 2 weeks. I get it. But it better get cleaned up, and it better get cleaned up in a hurry, because to me, Anilo, that's sort of the one boneheaded loss you're allowed all year. You only get 17 of these things. You can't have 2 boneheaded losses. You had one in Arrowhead last year against the Chiefs, and you had one in week 2 against the Colts. I do not want to come in here on Tuesdays, week 3 through 18, and talk about another boneheaded loss. If you go to Philly and the Eagles beat you by 2 touchdowns, whatever. They're the champs. They beat you by 2 touchdowns. But you can't give games away, and that's what the Broncos did on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, they almost gave away the game against Tennessee. It's not like the Broncos came out in week 1 and lit the world on fire either. I mean, we're a bad pass from Bo on the Sean 4th and 8 call from Tennessee, maybe making some magic happen in that game as well. So, interesting start to the season for the Denver Broncos. Again, you'd rather get this stuff out of your system now and move forward and build upon this and give yourself that gut check. There's your silver lining as well. But so far through 2 games, Will, I think the Broncos are going to be a good team. How good? I'm not quite so sure yet. And let's be fair. Let's give some credit to the Indianapolis Colts as well. You and I were in agreement. I did not think the Colts were going to hold up nearly as well as they did against this Broncos defense. Daniel Jones looks pretty good. Again, the Broncos lost that game for a number of reasons, but the Colts also showed up and played a good game.
Yeah, the Colts did play well, and I had some fun with Zach and Phil at the end of the drive. Yes, I should have taken the Colts more seriously. I'm
you and me both.
Absolutely willing to admit that, and Phil and Zach did take them seriously, and they got proved right. At the same time, Broncos had 28 points with 12 minutes to go in the third quarter. They didn't score the rest of the game.
Yeah.
They didn't score for 27 more minutes. Now, Bo can't throw the pick. Let's talk about that. Will can't miss the kick. Let's talk about that. Where's Cortland Sutton on Sunday?
Mystery.
Where's Evan Ingram all season? We heard so much about this Joker role. Ingram's playing less snaps than Adam Troutman. You talked about red flags earlier. That's a major red flag to me. Evan Ingram was brought in here to ball out, and he's done none such things in 2 weeks. How much does this go on the offense? Because I think most people want to say, well, Bo threw 3 touchdowns in the first half, and everything was great and dandy. It was. But when you have 28 points with 27 minutes to go in an NFL game, your final number needs to start with a 4. You need to be in the 40s.
Yeah.
And the Broncos just stalled on 28. And I promise, we're going until 6:25. We'll get to the defense as well. But talk to me about the offense and what went so wrong, and specifically the Bo Nix pick late. Because that was another thing. We're talking about Tillman. We're talking about Lutz. We're talking about Rizzi. Can't let Bo off the hook for the interception when the Broncos really could have used 3 points.
Well, real quick, a big picture thought on the offense, and then we can go back to the micro of the game as a whole. I think what we've seen, even going back to the preseason and now through 2 regular season games for the Denver Broncos, let's just pump the brakes just a little bit on what this Broncos team can be this season. Cecil, who sits in the seat that I'm in right now, had him at 13 wins. I believe you had him at 13 wins as well. That could still very much happen. I personally had him at 10. And this isn't a victory lap or anything like that, but I think we're seeing an offense that is still developing and maturing before our own eyes. And I think a lot of people look at this Broncos defense and look at Pat Surtain, and we'll have some thoughts on him in a minute as well, and say, well, this offense needs to catch up to the speed of the defense. This is very much a work in progress, which is why I'm kind of in wait-and-see mode with this Denver Broncos team. Now, I did think they'd figure out a way to beat the Colts, but to your point in this game, man, I mean, Bo was, solid, 22 for 30, 206 passing yards, 3 tutties, and the bad interception, quarterback rating of 111.2. So, again, I think it's a little growing pains with Bo, but you got to be smarter, especially in that late game scenario. But to your point, where's Cortland Sutton? Where is Cortland Sutton, the guy who they just signed the contract extension? 1 catch for, I believe, 6 yards for Court. R.J. Harvey, they're supposed to be rookie solution at running back, 5 touches for 8 yards. I mean, what are we doing here?
And Evan Ingram, you can lump him in with those names as well. Yeah, and I think the Broncos need to learn how to put opponents away. Because when you're up 28-20 and half the crowd is still coming back with their peanuts and their hot dogs and their sodas and their beers, you had a real chance to take the air out of that football stadium. Because when you come out, start of the third quarter, get the football and go score a touchdown, that's kind of a statement of, yeah, sorry, fellas, you're not going to keep up with us today. And they didn't have that killer instinct. And that really bothered me. I'm not blaming the offense. The offense is fairly low on my list of reasons the Broncos lost. But what happened in week 1? The defense bailed out the offense. In week 2, the offense had a golden opportunity to bail out the defense, and they didn't score a single point the rest of the game. And that bothered me, I guess, more than I expected, because I want to focus on the positives. But again, I think you should be looking at 42, 45 points on a day like that when you were just slicing and dicing them. I mean, I said call him Chef Bo Nix, because that was what he was doing to the Indy defense. And it just came to kind of a grinding halt. And yes, Troy Franklin was awesome. And it was good to see Marvin Mims catch a touchdown. And Troutman, a tight end, did have a touchdown. But you're right. You got to get more out of Sutton. You got to get more out of Harvey. And you got to get more out of Ingram. And you got to have more of a killer instinct. And Sean Payton, for whatever reason, felt like he was hanging on for dear life with his play calling rather than just putting the foot on the throat and seizing the football game.
Yeah, and I don't understand that. Because, I think back to New Orleans, and obviously it's a much different scenario for Sean Payton, but that killer instinct was present. Drew Brees would go down the field and suck the life out of opposing teams and their fan bases alike. So it's interesting, man, but I think, another conversation that maybe needs to be had about the offense is 21 points in the first half compared to just 7 in the second half, as you alluded to. What did Indianapolis do that caused Denver some troubles? Is it Denver's inability to kind of counter? Is it Denver being a one-trick pony when it comes to game plan? Because clearly it was a complete duality first half to second half with this offense.
Yeah, no, it was concerning to say the least. And then a lot of people, and we're seeing it on the RamosLaw.com text line, 303-713-1043, are just going to point at the defense. And I know James Marilat wrote his column about that at DenverSports.com on Monday. I read it. I agreed with it. The defense wasn't good. And Vance Joseph, to me, Anilo, is just at this weird fork in the road. And I've been hammering this for, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months. Vance Joseph isn't going to be the defensive coordinator of the Broncos next year. I'm not reporting that. That's just my opinion.
Ooh.
But it's a weird fork in the road, right? Because he's either going to get promoted, and by a promotion, he's going to go be a head coach of a different NFL team, or he's going to get fired because Sean's going to have Jim Leonard in waiting to be his new DC. And to be honest, the Broncos have laid too many eggs, especially recently. Zach did a good job laying out the numbers on the drive. This defense has not been good for about the last 8 games, basically the Titans game notwithstanding. Yes, people will point to Week 18 against the Chiefs, but it was the JV Chiefs. They didn't care. What happened in the playoffs against the Bills was unacceptable. What happened in Cincinnati against the Bengals was unacceptable. Thursday Night Football against the Chargers last year, not good enough. This week, too, against the Colts, not good enough. People say, different seasons. Why are you comparing? It's basically the same roster, guys. In fact, it should be better. I mean, you have Hufanga. You have Barron. We're keeping our fingers crossed that Dre Greenlaw practices tomorrow and is out there in Week 3. I think it's completely fair game to bring up last year and sort of roll it into this year, if you will. I think I've had it before. I know friends have had it before where you're at a job, right? And anyone listening can relate to this. And you're kind of sitting there going, they're either going to promote me or get rid of me. I've kind of just run my course at this current level I'm at right now. And I think that's the way it works with Vance Joseph. I would be very surprised if Vance Joseph's the coordinator of the 2026 Broncos. And I am rooting for in the biggest of ways that he's a head coach. Because if he's a head coach, that means this defense had a bad game against the Colts, turned it around, had a great season, lived up to the hype of a number 1 defense in this league. But I promise you, if this defense finishes in the middle of the pack, Sean will not be afraid to make a change at DC.
I tend to agree with you. I do. And it's funny, right? Because this, maybe not quite this time last year, but give or take a few weeks, right? We're talking about where's Vance Joseph going to be a head coach next season. Right now it feels like that conversation is completely out the window. And it's not like he doesn't have anything to work with. I give a little bit of a discount to Pat Surtain individually. He didn't look the same after the ankle injury. I know, Dover said yesterday that he doesn't use that as a discount because if you're healthy enough to be back in the game, you should play at the highest level. I can subscribe to that thought to a certain extent, but I'll give the reigning defending defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, a little bit of grace. Zach Allen hurt very early in the game as well. But it's still unacceptable. Look, we know that Alex Singleton's coming back from the ACL injury, dealing with the thumb stuff as well. He didn't look good. Dre Greenlaw, one of the big signings in the offseason, nowhere to be found. Hufanga's probably been the most identifiable person on that defense. He's lived up to the hype in 2 games. But yeah, you just expect a lot more from this Broncos defense, albeit it's on the road. But this is Daniel Jones that we're talking about here and the Indianapolis Colts. And let's give respect to Daniel Jones. He's looked pretty good in 2 games. But for a defense that people in this market want to label as maybe the best defense in the 2020s decade, potentially, that is not what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, and quite frankly, it's not fair to compare them to the 2015 no-fly zone, Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Brandon Marshall, Danny Trevathan, Malik Jackson, Derek Wolfe, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, TJ Ward. People know all the names.
And those were seasoned guys.
Right, and just let's stop putting them in the same sentence.
Please.
And I'm not saying you were doing that, but there was people that are like,
yes,
this defense could be as good as the Super Bowl 50 defense. Super Bowl 50 defense would have never let Daniel Jones and Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor tear them up like
The Colts would have scored 10 points maximum against that Super Bowl defense. Wouldn't even be in competition.
So you mentioned Singleton. He seems to be the guy taking the brunt of the blame. I like Alex Singleton. He's a really nice guy. He's a cool dude. I've had good interactions with him over the years. But combine his age, early 30s, coming off an ACL, he doesn't look like a starting middle linebacker in the NFL to me right now. The amount of times, Danilo, that he looked like he was on skates in that football game, not in a good way, not in a Nathan McKinnon type way, in a this guy's just going to run right past me because I can't get my footing and I can't cut properly. I am praying you'll be down there tomorrow at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, that Dre Greenlaw is practicing. And I'm not saying that means Singleton goes to the bench. I think it would be Stranad who goes to the bench. But this guy through the first 2 weeks looks nowhere near to the caliber of player he was in 2023. And he only played 3 games last year because he tore the ACL in Tampa very early on. I'm worried, extremely worried at this point, that Alex Singleton's kind of hit the end of the road.
Could be the case. I think it's a little too early to tell. Dealing with that injury, that's going to be a natural obstacle to have to overcome on top of missing some time in the preseason with the thumb injury. So I think it's going to take him some time to ramp up. But I agree, it was not a great return from Alex Singleton in that game. But here's the other thing, Will, is I'm thinking back to the offseason conversations that we've had around the office or I've had with other media folk in town. When it came to the Broncos defense, the biggest question mark was the linebacker position.
It was.
And obviously the idea of pairing an Alex Singleton with a Stranad as the backup, along with Dre Greenlaw, that was supposed to be, the magic that makes everything happen for this Broncos defense at the linebacking position. So the fact that you knew Greenlaw is going to be injury prone, you knew Singleton was coming off an injury. I'm looking back. I mean, didn't they demote Lavelle Bailey? Wasn't that a thing? Or he didn't make the roster initially?
He got cut. He came back on the practice squad, but I don't think Lavelle Bailey would have been any worse than Alex Singleton was on Sunday.
I don't think so either, but point being is that may have been a big oversight from the Broncos in the offseason, is not doubling down on that linebacking position, not just looking at Dre Greenlaw, who on paper is a great fit for this team, but on paper doesn't, that's 0 for 2 in games played so far for Dre Greenlaw. So point being, taking a step back, there was flaws even with the Dre Greenlaw signing in the linebacker room. Now they're just being expounded because of the injury to Dre and Singleton coming back from injury.
Yeah, and you mentioned Zach Allen and PS2. They both get hurt in that game. Give them a ton of credit for both coming back. I'm not going to lie. I was very scared for about 10 minutes with Pat Surtain. Very scared.
Me too.
Because it looked like maybe he got tangled up with Warren, and then you watch the slow-mo, and it's like, he didn't get tangled up with Warren. Your mind immediately goes to the worst places. I'm not even going to say it out loud, but your mind goes to really dark places, and we had Andrew Mason in Indy, and he, of course, texts the thread, hey, guys, Pat's out of the tent, and he's jogging around. I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, I was holding my breath.
Thank goodness. And Zach Allen, that didn't look good either, and that happened on the second snap of the game, but didn't notice Zach Allen all that much after he came back, and that's the most picked on PS2's been since maybe his rookie year. Do you chalk that up to the injury, or do you chalk that up to maybe the Colts weren't, quote-unquote, as scared of Pat Surtain as other teams are? Because it felt like every time you looked up, and Kevin Harlan and Trent Green talked about it a bunch too, wow, they're really targeting PS2, and it actually worked for Indy.
To use a Zach byline, maybe two things can be true at the same time here. Because I'm putting myself, and obviously I'm not an NFL play caller, and Pat Surtain is a great, great cornerback, but kind of like that Kobe Bryant, why not us? Or, the Russell Westbrook, why not? Let's go after the guy. Let's see what he's got, right? But I do think the injury significantly affected Pat Surtain. And I will give, as I said earlier, I will give PS2 some grace. The reigning defending defensive player of the year. You get banged up and you don't look great. Okay, let's throw that one out and move on to the next game. Hopefully he's good to go. PS2 is probably the player outside of the injury that I'm least worried about holding up over this season.
No, I am too. I'm not blaming Pat, but I do think the injury probably affected him more than we realized. I think he was playing on a somewhat sprained ankle.
And I don't have the snap count in front of me, but I'm curious how many of those targets came after the injury.
Well, the
compared to
vast
before.
majority, because it happened
Right.
pretty darn early in the football game.
Right. So that's something to if you're in the shoes of the Colts offensive play caller, like you see Pat Surtain get hobbled with an ankle, you got to attack that.
All right, well, that was the breakdown of what went wrong against the Colts. Let's look forward to the Chargers, including why I think this is borderline must-win for the Broncos. It's not must-win, but it's borderline must-win, and I'll explain next.
Follow us on X at DEN Sports 1043 for up-to-the-minute information and opinions on all things Denver sports. Also, we can still call it Twitter, right? Denver Sports 1043 The Fan, DenverSports.com, and the Denver Sports app.
Change is always happening. Hey, it's part of life, and when it comes to music, change is all around us. Songs are rewritten, classics are remixed, bands and artists come and go. Even our taste in music changes. But no matter how things change in 5 years, there's one thing that'll stay the same: the price of your internet. Xfinity is introducing the 5-year price guarantee. It means you'll get 5 years of the most reliable Wi-Fi with their best equipment included for a price that stays exactly the same. Surprised? Life is full of them. One internet price, 5 years guaranteed. Learn more at Xfinity.com/deals. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report August 2024.
Done right kitchens, baths, counters and floors, finished basements, windows and doors. Our 8% scheduling incentive and bank financing to ask about make a great time to call 800-362-8370 or drhi.com.
If you're considering sedation dentistry and want to learn more about it, Clarkson Dental can help. When it comes to your health, you want to make sure you know all the details. The highly trained professionals at Clarkson Dental have your answers. Learn more at coloradosedation.com.
More than a few of our patients have talked to me about their first time, but it's not the first time you're probably thinking about. It's the first time that erectile dysfunction ruined the moment. This is Jeff for the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, and if you're over 50, it's likely you've had that first time yourself. But the good news is that if you're like most men, that first time can be the last time that ED impacts your sex life. At the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, we're experts in treating ED. We've treated tens of thousands of men using protocols with success rates well over 90%. And those treatments have, in most cases, made sex great again for both them and their partners. You could even find that you're performing like you haven't in years. So if ED has been affecting your intimacy, it's time to make the last time that happens the last time that happens. For just $99, you'll receive blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 720-440-7900 or go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We have 5 offices across the Front Range to serve you.
The right financial strategies can make a huge difference, especially if you're nearing retirement. Adam Mueller talks retirement strategies with Mile High Money. Saturday mornings at 8 on Denver Sports 1043, The Fan.
Hey, bro, weirdest thing is happening at the game. Every time I crack a Bud Light, we score a touchdown. I think I'm some kind of football prophet.
Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Stock up today. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Fall is here. The leaves are piling up. The air is getting crisp. Football's back on TV and chili's been simmering in the crock pot for hours. At Postman Law, the season may change, but one thing stays the same. We fight for hardworking folks when they've been injured. We've recovered billions for our clients, and it costs nothing to find out if you have a case. You don't pay a dime unless we win for you. If you've been hurt in an accident, call Postman Law at 844-POSTMAN today. That's 844-POSTMAN. This is attorney advertising.
Attention golf lovers, the city of Aurora has you covered this fall. Home to 5 beautiful courses, there's no better place to play than Aurora. What's up guys, it's Zach here. I enjoy leaf peeping every fall, but instead of heading to the mountains, I'm heading to my local Aurora golf courses. Saddle Rock, Aurora Hills, Spring Hill, Meadow Hills, and Murphy Creek have stunning Rocky Mountain views with the fall colors we adore. For more information and to book a tee time, visit golfaurora.com and give them a follow on Facebook, X, and Instagram at at Golf Aurora CO.
Hi, I'm Terrell Davis, two-time world champion and Pro Football Hall of Famer. There is nothing more important than your health. That's why I made the smart move to invest in fitness equipment with Fitness Gallery. It's a game changer. I have a true treadmill at home. It's the smoothest and quietest I've ever been on.
Football is here, and Fitness Gallery's fall football sale is your playbook for a winning home gym. Save up to 50% off on select premium equipment. Visit any of our 7 stores from Denver to Fort Collins and score big before the sale ends.
Brandon Stokely here from my team, ROX Rocks Heating and Air. Huge heat pump rebates have been extended and are still available. My team at ROX are heat pump experts. The energy rebates and tax credits are unreal right now. You can get up to $12,000 off a new heat pump system, the best way to heat and cool your home. Colorado's hometown team, ROX Rocks Heating and Air. Now play that jingle.
HVAC service, installation, repair. ROX Rocks Heating and Air.
This segment on 104.3 The Fan is brought to you by Roller Auction.
It's Denver Sports Tonight on Denver Sports Station 104.3 The Fan.
All right, ton of reaction coming in on the Ramos.com text line, 303-713-1043 if you want to get involved. Can't read all of them on air, but I promise I read all of them while I sit here. So thank you for texting. The 3951 says, Singleton is near unwatchable. I think if Greenlaw comes back, you rotate between those two guys. Maybe, but then I just wonder how much faith you have in Stranad. I think it's quite frankly lucky, and Anilo, you hinted at it, that Lavelle Bailey didn't go elsewhere. I would fall back on him, and I would fall back on Greenlaw. I think what the texter's getting at is they need changes, and I would agree with the texter on that. I don't think making dramatic changes to that position group is too much of a knee-jerk reaction. I would absolutely give Bailey a shot, and if Greenlaw's good to go, I would give him a shot. And if Stranad and Singleton are more on the bench, more special teams, that's fine with me. It's very rare I'm going to say, hey, just change out an entire position group. But after what I saw against Indy and some of the film I've seen, wouldn't be all that opposed to it.
Yeah, I think it's the one position group. I won't include the running backs here just because that's a bit of a carousel already. But it's the one position group where you're not deep, right? Like they're deep at cornerback. They're deep on the defensive line. As you and I talked about in the last segment, they were thin even with the Greenlaw signing at linebacker. So, it's 2 games in. I don't know if you want to go play musical chairs quite this early in the season. But I think, all options have to be on the table here. Because to your point, they used their one kind of, I forget how you labeled it, but this is the one game that got away from them. You can't have another one of these games throughout the course of the season.
Kind of your one boneheaded loss that you're allowed type of thing. The 3603 says, I've watched the game 3 times. Good for you, Texter. I couldn't stomach it more than twice. He says, I would agree on Singleton, but call it what it was for Pat Surtain. He got burned. Defensive player of the year and looked average against average NFL receivers. I think, yes, burned is somewhat appropriate, but what Anilo and I were getting at was the ankle was something. I think the ankle was significant. Another texter points out, hey, he had 4 targets before the ankle and 5 after the ankle. There was breakdown in the Denver Post. I get all that, but I think we'd be naive that the guy had trainers come out, he limped off, he went to the medical tent, he jogged, and he was able to come back in the game and just assume he wasn't feeling the effects of it at all. I don't think we can ignore what happened to him getting hurt early in that football game.
I think it's foolish to ignore that.
Yeah.
I don't really have much more to say on it than that. Like you and I mean, we're not professional athletes, right? But I had the hiccups before the show, right? Like if I had the hiccups on the air right now, like, are you going to, I'm probably going to get judged a little bit, but it's also like, it's the hiccups. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, it's not like, this or that or whatever it might be. So, again, and this is the reigning defending defensive player of the year. It's not like this is a guy who barely made the roster that you're angry he made it over somebody else and now you're frustrated at that decision. This is maybe not just, like, he's the best player on your team.
He is.
Point blank. I mean, who's number 2? Probably Benito, Allen at that point? Not that we have to get into that conversation, but, like, take it easy just a little bit.
Yes. Surtain did not have a bad game, but he's did not have a good game, but he's very low on my list of worries, especially if he's a full participant tomorrow when we get the injury report. Ankle's all good. He's good to go.
He's probably the bottom of my list when it comes to worries.
Yes. No, very, very, very far down. It would be Pat Surtain. The 6629 says, we all remember the Chargers game last year. They are still running wide open across the field. Good text, good memory. Yes, that second half, particularly in Thursday Night Football, a game that, remember, Sean Payton agreed to get flexed into. it was not pretty. The Chargers had that weird free field goal situation at the end of the first half. It sort of spiraled the game out of control. Justin Stranad played a lot in that football game, and the Broncos simply couldn't contain the Chargers. And as we pivot toward the Chargers and Elo, oh boy, Quentin Johnston now knows how to play football as well. Had a very good first 2 weeks after an underwhelming start to his NFL career. You throw him in with Ladd McConkey, a resurgent Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris. This ain't going to be the Titans. This Broncos defense has a major task ahead of them this coming weekend.
Well, and the one thing that we've seen through the first 2 weeks as well is they're cutting Justin Herbert loose, right? Like last year, they were such a run-dominant football team, and Herbert would roll out the play action and whatnot. Now they're a bit more balanced, and I'm a big Justin Herbert guy. Like I think he has the potential to be, one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the league, and I think, now they're leaning into the passing game a little bit more. Maybe you see that come to fruition. I mean, they're 2-0. Like at the end of the day, like the Chargers are in control of this division. I know the Broncos are 1-1, Raiders are 1-1, Chiefs 0-2. You love to see that, but there's no indication the Chargers are slowing down right now. Will?
No, and it's not a must-win for the Broncos in Week 3 against the Chargers, but it does look like a game that Denver could really use a victory. You mentioned the Chargers won on Monday Night Football last night, 20-9, alone in first place in the AFC West. With a win for the Broncos, both Denver and LA would be 2-1 and tied atop the division. With a loss, they'll be 1-2. Chargers 3-0. And I know I'm just doing simple math here and everyone can figure that out, but that would be a deep hole to dig out of, especially because Herbert and company would have swept the Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos to start the year. If you're Jim Harbaugh, you can't script a better start to your schedule. We go AFC West, AFC West, AFC West. Not only do we start 3-0, but we have 3 division wins. Some people argue those count as double because of tiebreakers and how important your division is and all that. I'm sorry, but if the Chargers are 3-0 and the Broncos are 1-2, I'm not saying their title hopes in the division are dead, but they take a big, big dent. It would be a very tough situation for Denver to work its way out of if they lose on Sunday.
Yeah, it would be a huge hit. And let's take it a step further. Let's assume the Chargers win that game and go 3-0. Well, they might be 6-0. They got the Giants, Commanders, and Dolphins the following 3 games. The Commanders are probably going to be a tough one, but they're at home for that game as well. You chalk up the Giants and the Dolphins virtually as automatic wins with the way those 2 teams have looked so far. I mean, that's the thing. Like, this division could get out of hand quickly if the Broncos don't do something about it on Sunday.
Yeah, and you're right, because Jaden Daniels is a little beat up right now. We're waiting to see what his status is. Would assume he plays in that game, but the Commanders haven't looked all that impressive through 2 weeks. I think a lot of people picked them as a candidate to come back down to earth this year after going to the NFC title game. But, yes, let's say that the Chargers are 6-0. Then all of a sudden 14-3 is on the table for that football team. The Broncos aren't going to go 14-3, and in best case, you're looking at a wild card like you were last year. You're looking at a trip to Buffalo or a trip to Baltimore, one of those things. Heck, a trip to SoFi to face the Chargers in the first round, depending on how all the seeding shakes out. I'm not trying to say that a game on, what's game day? September 20th, the 21st, whatever the game day is, the 21st for the Broncos and Chargers. I'm not trying to say that a game on September 21st dictates their season. That would be foolish. But talked about VJ facing a fork in the road. This is a fork in the road type football game for the Broncos. If you win this and you're both 2-1, you're feeling great. You're feeling, okay, we let one get away against Indy, but we've got a Bengals team coming in on Monday Night Football without Joe Burrow. We go to play Philly, but then we get the Jets, the Giants, the Cowboys. We could be 6-2, something like that. But if you lose this, you're 1-2, and all of a sudden, a division title feels like a pipe dream. Again, not trying to be over dramatic about a game that's taking place in September, but I can't emphasize enough how important this one is for the Broncos to get in 5 days here.
Every game matters in the NFL. This isn't the NBA or MLB, right?
But this one has a gold star of mattering, is what I'm saying.
No, 100%.
Like it's a mattering on steroids type football.
Yeah, because every game matters in the NFL. But to your point, like this matters even more just because of where we're at with the landscape of the season, right? The Nuggets lose a BS game to the Wizards in November. Everybody forgets that, right? The Rockies will leave them out of it, right? But you can drop series in Major League Baseball and be okay. I'm not trying to say this is a season-altering game necessarily for the Broncos, but there's a Pusha T line in one of his songs. How do you respond? How are the Denver Broncos going to respond this week? Because so far, I have not been impressed with the first 2 games. I liked what I saw in the first half against Indianapolis. I love that. But, I mean, we're talking about 8 quarters of football, and there's been 2 that I'm like, okay, like this team looks like what I thought they might be this year. Everything else, for the most part, has been a bit wacky for this Broncos team. So, yeah, this is a big gut check moment early in the season. And frankly, Will, I'll read into this win or loss.
Yeah,
I will.
No, I think it's a massive game, and I'm glad you agree with me on kind of the magnitude of it. And I think our texters do as well. Broncos country is understanding that, yes, they're all 17, and they all count for 1. This game counts for a little more than 1, just in terms of perception, attitude, how the team's going to be feeling. I promise you, on Sunday night, that's either going to be a raucous, really happy flight home from L.A., or that's going to be a locker room that's just as ticked off, if not more ticked off than they were against Indy, and that plane will be dead silent. It's going to go one way or another because I think the players know, too, how critical it is they find a way to earn a victory.
Yeah, this is about respect as well, and I'm not trying to go rah, we need our respect type narrative, but this is a division rival. This is a team that punked you in 2 games last year. We know the Broncos' record against, winning teams last season, and our guy Zach Bide tweeted out as well. Maybe this is the case. The Broncos have played in 9 one-score games since the start of last season. They're 2-7 in those games. So if we want to talk 13 wins, if we want to talk about winning the division, contending for a Super Bowl, there's a lot in front of us that we still need to see the Broncos clean up before we can start having those conversations. And this is a golden opportunity for the Broncos to right their wrongs from the first 2 weeks and go out there and show themselves, the league, the fan base, that, hey, this is a team that has a legitimate chance to make some noise in the playoffs. Again, I'll read into this game, win or loss.
Yeah, and their head coach was talking about the Super Bowl a bunch of times during the summer. All right, coming up next, speaking of head coaches, every Tuesday something eventful happens with Deion Sanders. It did again today. We'll give you the latest from the CU Buffs.
Is it time to push the panic button up in Boulder?
They don't have an identity on offense. They don't have an identity on defense. And when you're a team that lacks a complete identity,
they're in trouble.
You're in trouble. Feels like a 4 or 5 win team.
Yep.
Denver Sports 104.3. The Fan.
Go from daydreamer to industry leader with Amazon Business. From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
Let's go! You still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, boy Steve here today about my long-term buddy Troy Hansford. And if you're thinking about selling your house for any reason, now might be the time to sell, still get top dollar. Believe it or not, my guy Troy is still offering his $5,000 guarantee. What is it, you ask? Well, if you can't sell your house at your price on your timeline that you agree upon beforehand, bam, going to cut you a check for $5,000. Who else makes the offer? Nobody I've ever heard of. And he makes that offer because he continues to spend a ton of money marketing his listings, has about 100 families approved and ready to buy right now. And if for any reason you need to sell right away, Troy can buy your house, all cash, and he can close in as little as 7 days. You have a house to sell, Troy probably has that perfect buyer for you right now, waiting for you to pick up the phone and to call him. Call Troy, get your home sold for the most money. That's 720-900-4433, 720-900-4433. Troy Hansford of RE/MAX Professionals, a Colorado licensed broker. Some restrictions do apply. Want to sell your house? Then call my buddy Troy, 720-900-4433.
Dan Jacobs with 303 Law 4040. It's football season, and did you know that I am the reigning fan staff champion in the King Supers Football Pick'em? Yep, Stokely, Schlereth, Zach By, Cecil Lemmy, none of them can hang with the judge when it comes to football. Just like those made-for-TV lawyers can't hang with me in the courtroom. When you've been hurt in a car accident, you want the real deal, which is what you get when you call 303 Law 4040. Not some made-for-TV character. When you call 303 Law 4040, you speak directly with me or my lovely wife, Kimberly, not some call center overseas. And you get to meet with us in person for free. We never take a dime unless we win for you. Plus, no ridiculous fees like those TV characters. You were the one that was hurt, so the doctors and the lawyers shouldn't take all the money. So go ahead, save that number in your phone. You never know when you're going to need it. It's 303-LAW-4040, 303-LAW-4040.
Huge savings on Dell AI PCs with Intel Core Ultra processors are here, and they're newly designed to help you do more faster. They can generate code, edit images, multitask without lag, draft emails, summarize documents, create live translations, and even extend your battery life. That's the power of Dell AI with Intel inside. Upgrade today by visiting Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout your day. Whether it's a long day on your feet, a demanding workout, or everyday aches and pains, you need relief that can keep up when pain persists. Aleve is here for you with longer-lasting body pain relief compared to leading OTC-branded pain relievers. With just one pill, Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed.
Another summer is ended, and you may have noticed that your energy is lower, your workouts aren't as productive, perhaps you aren't sleeping as well and feel foggy all the time, maybe even your sex drive is off. This is Jeff for the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, and if you're experiencing some or all of these symptoms, it's likely you have low testosterone. And if that's what's going on with you, don't wait. You need to call us at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic and get treated for your low T, because living with low testosterone is no way to live. With our low T treatments, if you're like most guys, your life will change considerably. Improved sleep, better energy, greater gains in the gym, better mental clarity, and your sex drive will likely improve as well. Plus, most men see these results in just a few weeks. So call us. Your initial visit is just $99 and includes PSA and T-test and a medical consult. And if you start on testosterone the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Call 720-440-7900 or go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We have 5 offices across the Front Range to serve you.
Stay up to date on the Broncos and the latest news from around the league with our NFL insider James Palmer, exclusively on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Mondays on The Rundown with Richie Carney, Tuesday afternoons on The Drive, and Friday mornings on Stokely and Evans with Mark Schlereth, all season long. Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan, DenverSports.com, and the Denver Sports app. Denver Sports Station 104.3 The Fan presents Denver Sports Tonight.
So Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has a press conference every Tuesday. It seems like he makes headlines every week. Last week, didn't want to name a quarterback. It turned out to be Ryan Staub against Houston. That game did not go well for the Buffs. It wasn't all Staub's fault, but he didn't look great. Defense certainly didn't look good. Still couldn't stop the run. Outside of a fun few minutes in the second quarter, the Cougars really took it to Colorado. And today, Deion got asked about having an identity, because who are these Buffs, Anilo? Are they a strong defensive team? They a hard-nosed running team? They're going to air it out? Listen, it's pretty easy to have an identity when you have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. We all know that. Maybe the best quarterback in college football last year, and certainly the best player in Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy. But classic Deion gets asked about identity. Think it's an inbounds fair game question, and rather than answer it, he didn't necessarily pick a fight, but he didn't love this line of questioning either.
I don't care what kind of car we pull up in. Long as we pull out of here with a W, I'm good. So I don't really get into the identity thing, not whatsoever. I would like to do some things better. We like to stop the run. We like to run the ball. We like to be consistent offensively and defensively. We'd love to do those things better, but I can't be narrowed down with, what's your identity? What does that mean? What does that mean, what's your identity? I don't even know what that means. What you're known for. Excuse you? What you're known for. What you do best. What you hang your hat on. I don't think we can hang our hat out. Like Ohio State won the national championship, right? What did they hang their hat on? Running the football. But But they had two. You can't hang your hat on two running backs. That's not nothing to hang your hat on. It's got to be. Everybody got two running backs. Two running backs can kick your butt. They can't kick your butt down the line.
Yeah. So he's going back and forth with a reporter there. It was a little tough to hear maybe, but the reporter says your identity is what you do best, what you're known for, et cetera, et cetera. Deion challenges with him Ohio State, and he says, well, they ran the ball, and yes, they run the ball. We talked a lot about Judkins and Henderson as candidates to be Denver Broncos because that was a two-headed monster. And what happened? The Buckeyes hoisted a trophy and won a national championship. I don't know, Anilo. How do you take this Coach Prime having an issue with every question type thing? I think that works when you're winning. I'm not so sure it works when you're losing. Again, especially a topic that I think is fairly inbounds.
I think Deion, I don't think I know. He's a supremely confident guy, right? But I think this is probably a little uncomfortable for him, or maybe just unusual, right? Like this is a guy that is used to winning and doing things at the highest level and succeeding more often than not. So it's obviously a different scenario here for Deion. But like, there's just a little spin zone there. Nothing that I didn't, nothing anything crazy to me. But the one thing that does stick out to me with the back and forth with reporter about running backs and this and that, everyone has two running backs. I mean, there's been some really good duo running back tandems in NFL history as well. I mean, I think back to the Dallas Cowboys, Herschel Walker and Tony Dorsett, right? Like you've seen Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew. Like there's been examples of that as well. So maybe a bit of deflection from Deion Sanders in that. But like, what was their identity last year? Great, offensive firepower, ability to drag yourself out of a hole, by the snap of a finger because of 2-12. Like that was the identity of the Buffs last year, along with not being able to stop the run. There just is no identity with this Buffs team. So I think he's not going to come out and say that, but there's really nothing you can hang your hat on except for like Alejandro Mata and the punter. Like, is that your identity, special teams? Deion always says he wants his special teams to be special, but the offense and defense have left you a lot to be desired.
Yeah, well, the Broncos could learn lessons from having consistent special teams, that's for sure, after what we saw in week 2. But I think you're right that he's supremely confident. It's probably a little uncomfortable for him, a little awkward. But to just be dismissive of Ohio State, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. Because they won the whole thing because they had a great defense, don't get me wrong. They had Will Howard, serviceable, decent quarterback. But every time I watched that team, Judkins and Henderson were going absolutely nuts. And there's a reason both guys were picked in, the top 70 picks of the NFL draft?
Yeah.
Because they were monsters. And for Deion to act like, well, even the best teams don't have identity, that's just flat out wrong. The best teams absolutely do have an identity. And right now, if a cop asked the Colorado Buffaloes to produce their ID, they couldn't because they don't have an identity.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, Deion Sanders does not play by the same rules and regulations, at least mentally, as everybody else does. Like, it's not college football to Deion. It's Deion football. Like, he just thinks about this thing in a completely different way. And I'm a Deion guy. I like Deion Sanders. I think what he's done for the program is absolutely incredible. But the program as a whole right now is reeling and in search of that identity. So what will it be? I don't know. Maybe they get some identity at quarterback this weekend, though.
Yeah, and Deion was asked about who his quarterback's going to be if he's made a decision. He said, quote, "Yeah, I most definitely have." And the reporter followed up, well, then who is it or what are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for leadership and consistency. That's it. That ain't much to ask for, leadership and consistency. All right, so Staub, Juju, Caden, who starts for the Buffs against Wyoming on Saturday night, late night kickoff up at Folsom Field?
Well, they've all been consistently mid, except for that nice little spurt there from Staub. I think he'll default to Salter. Leadership makes me think it could be Staub, though, if that's one of the characteristics he's looking for.
But Salter should know how to lead at this point. The guy was at Liberty for a long time.
You would think, but I'm going back to the quote from Deion about the way the offensive line and the offense reacted to Staub coming into the game. I haven't heard anything along those lines with Salter, but I do think it'll be Caden Salter when it's all said and done. Maybe all three at some point.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. It will be Salter. That's my gut. It should be Juju. Yep. It's time to just hand the kid the keys to the Corvette. Like, what are we doing? He's a 5-star. He's your future. Let him have the growing pains this year, and then next year you can go into, okay, he's going to be the guy. But I'm with you. I think Deion's going to lean on the veteran. I think he'll go from Staub back to Salter. We are fixing to find out. It was a ton of fun for Dante and Anilo. I'm Will. It's DST on the Fan.
Stream Stokely and Evans with Mark Schlereth, Dover and Cecil, The Drive, and all your favorite shows on the Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan app. Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan, DenverSports.com, and the Denver Sports app.
It's back. Football is back, Broncos country, which means summer is almost over. And that means it's time for game days. Whether you're heading to Empower Field or traveling to Boulder to cheer on Coach Prime and the Buffs, you got to get there in style and on time. So let my friends at Hermes Worldwide handle the traffic and parking, and you handle the rest, which means have as much fun as possible and make as many memories as you can. So let Hermes Worldwide get you to and from the game safe. All you need to do is call Hermes Worldwide at 303-577-7600 or visit ridehermes.com/DenverSports to book your next ride today.
You worked hard for your 401k, but if you've left your job, your money might be sitting in the wrong hands. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and it's very possible that the 401k that you have had for years has hidden fees and limited investment choices. But if you're no longer with the company, that 401k may be at the mercy of your former employer. All of these things could be costing you thousands. Rolling over your 401k into an IRA can provide better investment options that align with your long-term goals. At Trajan Wealth, we're fiduciary advisors that are held to a higher standard with no hidden agenda and no hidden fees. Don't let your retirement dollars sit in an old plan, and don't roll it over to your new plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. Call Trajan today at 720-405-3300. That's 720-405-3300.
Advisory services are offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Injured in an accident? Call Postman Law. Our attorneys have recovered over $3 billion for clients, fighting and winning nationwide. Others promise, Postman delivers. Call 844-POSTMAN now for your free consultation. That's 844-POSTMAN.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Hey, want to hear something great? Right now at Wendy's, you can get 2 of the #1 selling bacon cheeseburger in all fast food, the JBC, plus medium fries and a medium soft drink for just $8. Want to hear something else great? Double the burger means double the bacon. Now that's a game changer. 2 of the #1 bacon cheeseburgers with fries and a drink for just $8. Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Request $8 JBC meal deal to obtain discount. Individual items at regular price.
Hey guys, Mark Schlereth here from my friends at Xfinity. And the other day I'm over at a friend's place. He's pumped to watch football, but his setup, total mess. Lagging, buffering, switching between apps, trying to find a game. He claimed to be a big fan, but I feel like I was being fan-fished. See, if you call yourself a football fan, you gotta have Xfinity. It's the ultimate sports destination. I can find the best games and my favorite teams all in one place. And the way I watch, well, it's next level. It's the perfect fan flex. I've got all the action right in my living room, plus Xfinity's best picture and sound with enhanced 4K, so clear it feels like I'm in the stadium. Sometimes I've got 4 games going on at once. Why? Because why not? On top of that, I get real-time notifications, live stats right on my TV. It's the best seat in the house every single time. Next game day, make sure that big fan isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Restrictions apply. Multi-view requires Xfinity 4K cable TV box.
Donnie here with Fitness Gallery. I'm thrilled to invite you to our biggest event of the season, the summer clearance sale happening right now at all 7 of our Colorado locations. Save up to 50% off on select premium equipment. These deals end soon.
The Stokely and Evans with Mark Schlereth podcast is brought to you by Xfinity. Introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for the next 5 years guaranteed. Denver Sports 104.3. The Fan. KKFN and KKFN HD1 Longmont, Denver. You are listening to Denver Sports 104.3. The Fan.
Is Sports Center. I'm Christine Lisi. The hunt for October continues in Major League Baseball, and the dream season rolls on for Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh against the Royals.
Cal back in the box, 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's the pitch.
Swung on and blasted. Right field. History on its way. It is gone. Cal Raleigh, crown him. Number 55 for Cal. Already the all-time single-season home run catcher king, and now the most ever in a single season for a switch hitter. He surpasses Mickey Mantle.
The call on Seattle Sports 7:10 a.m. Seattle up big in Kansas City, 9-0 bottom four. In a matchup of two teams chasing the AL West leading Mariners, Rangers leading the Astros 1-0 top three, Cubs 4, Pirates 1 top 8, Chicago holding the top NL wildcard spot. A 5-run first for the Mets. They lead the Padres 8-2 bottom six. New York up 2 games on Cincinnati for the final NL wildcard spot. Reds having a tough time in St. Louis tonight. They trail the Cardinals 3-0 bottom four. A's up 2-1 on the Red Sox after 6. Boston a game back of the Yankees for the top AL wildcard spot. New York with a 10-1 lead at Minnesota, bottom 4. 3 RBI on the night for Trent Grisham. AL East leading Blue Jays leading the Rays 5-3 bottom 4. Toronto shortstop Bo Bichette sidelined the rest of the regular season with a sprained right knee. Team hoping he'll be back for the playoffs. Major League leading Brewers with a 3-0 lead on the Angels, bottom 4.
Hey, this is Rich Eisen. Coming up Wednesday, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, plus my NFL Power Rankings. That's Wednesday on The Rich Eisen Show on Disney+, Plus, the ESPN app, and ESPN Radio.
Welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Thursday afternoon. Joining me from New York City, where he attended the Board of Governors meeting this week and certainly was interesting, Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us from Dallas, Texas, where he is recovering from playing a pickup game against a 6'6", 25-year-old. Band McMahon, what the hell are you doing to yourself?
Howdy, partners. Zane, a longtime listener of the podcast, and he's like third or fourth time I play these guys. He invites me out, and he's like 34, but he doesn't tell me like he's got these ringers. It's a whole thing. So I don't know if I can keep playing in these games because I definitely tweaked my back. Plus, I believe I was the worst player on the floor. I was definitely the oldest by a long shot.
This reminds me of the story that Mark Schlereth, our former colleague at ESPN, he played like 15 years with the Broncos, and he had like 17 knee surgeries. Anyway, he was at training camp, and they were watching film, and he was like, "Oh my God, who is that awful offensive lineman? Oh my God, it's me." And he retired the next day when he looked at the video. That's you, McMahon. Pull the plug.
Listen, the goal is to still play decent pickup basketball into my 50s. I ain't too far away, unfortunately.
All right. Well, that's definitely attainable, but not against these dudes. All right. Let's get into the BOG. Every year it's interesting. Sometimes when there's BOG meetings, Bontemps and I will huddle and say, boy, what is the agenda that we're going to start with the commissioner? Yesterday, we had stuff that nobody could even get to, Bontemps. So
there were 3 or 4 topics that I knew it would not be asked, and I would not have a chance to ask, and I asked about 2 separate ones during the press.
Yes. Okay. So the floor is yours. Tell us what your feelings were coming out of that discussion.
We'll start with the Kawhi thing, right? And I thought the single most important thing that was said yesterday was that the burden of proof is on the NBA to determine whether the Clippers committed salary cap circumvention or not. There's been a lot of discussion over the past week since Pablo Torre's first podcast. I'm sure we'll talk about his second podcast about whether circumstantial evidence will be enough to really nail the Clippers to the wall and get them a Joe Smith type punishment. My read coming out of that presser yesterday is that that is not the preference of the commissioner and not what I think the league will be looking to do. I'm not sure where this is going to go. We'll see where the totality of the investigation goes on this. As we've talked about before, the league has hired the law firm that did the Robert Sarver investigation, I believe. They will dig into all this stuff. We'll see where it all lands. But I thought the way Adam Silver came out and said definitively, we're going to let the investigation play out, and then we're going to see where it lands. And I thought, very conclusively stating that it's not on the Clippers to show they're innocent. It's on us to show they are guilty. I think took some of the air out of the balloon in terms of just the tenor, not the heat on the Clippers, but the tenor of the discussion about how this is going to play out and what needs to happen. Now we have a very clear roadmap, at least in my opinion, of how this is going to go from an investigative standpoint and from a punishment standpoint. And the question now is, what is going to come out in that investigation, in subsequent reporting by Pablo Torre, by us, by others? What else will be uncovered, and where will this ultimately land? But I think the general expectation, was that Adam Silver was going to go into that presser yesterday, Wednesday, this will run Friday, and say, well, we're investigating, we'll talk to you about it later. And I think by handling things the way he did, I think it at least cleared up some questions and some confusion about sort of what the contours of this overall picture are going to look like. Now it's a matter of waiting to see what all this stuff ultimately uncovers.
If there was any air taken out of the balloon yesterday, that thing was pumped back up with helium.
To be clear, what I meant about that was not about the interest in the story. What I meant was,
I understand.
For the last week, there's been back and forth discussion about, is it on the Clippers to show that it's up to them, that they didn't do anything wrong? Is it up to the league to show that they did something like that they actually found it? All that kind of stuff. And I think my only point was that Adam definitively said, this is what the expectations are. We're going to do an investigation. We are going to figure out what we think happened, and then we are going to decide what to do about it. That was what I meant.
I'm just saying, at this point, it's not like this is creative dot connecting. The lines to connect dots are straight and not very long. Pablo's latest podcast with the revelation that, hey, this company going into bankruptcy, boy, they've got an overdue $1.75 million payment.
All right. Yeah. Before you let you go, let me just real quick summarize what Pablo, I'm sure a lot of our listeners know, but I'll summarize it real quick. Pablo came out with another revealing podcast on Thursday. In that podcast, he has documentation that I assume comes from employees who are no longer at the company. I don't know that, but he's got bank records. Mm-hmm. This is stuff that, maybe the Justice Department has because of their investigation, but that the NBA wouldn't normally have. The NBA can't subpoena a company's bank records. They can say to the Clippers, give us your cell phones, give us your emails. They can't get this. So the NBA, of course, is learning about this the same time everybody else is because they have no other way. They could certainly ask to interview employees or former employees, but those employees are under no obligation to do that. But that's neither here nor there. This bank record showed that the alternate governor, the 1% owner, the only other co-owner besides Steve Ballmer, Dennis Wong, put $2 million from a fund that he controls into this company about a week and a half before Kawhi got a $1.7 million payment that he was overdue to receive. And that is the core of the report. It also revealed that his daughter, Dennis Wong's daughter, was working for the company. To me, that's relevant, but we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to say, if you listened to our podcast a couple of days ago when this came out, I believed that the Clippers had plausible deniability. You may have disregarded that and thought that they were guilty. I felt they had plausible deniability, and I was willing to wait to let the investigation play out. This particular set of circumstances has, in my view, vastly less